Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachim, Shavua Tov. I hope everyone's Shabbat was beautiful and holy. I have a new section in front of me. This is a portion out of Ein Yaakov, out of a portion of the Talmud. I'll explain what Ein Yaakov is with this reading here. Ein Yaakov is a compilation of the Agada, Midrash-style teachings and stories from the Talmud. It was collected by Rabbi Yaakov ibn Habib. He lived from the years 1460 to 1516 of Spain, shortly after the expulsion. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi encouraged its study every evening, stating that most of the secrets of the Torah are concealed in it, and it atones man's sins, as explained in the writings of the Arizal. All right, let us get into the reading. Previously, the Talmud related how there was a severe drought in the times of the prophet Yoel. Nevertheless, the Jewish people planted grain, and it miraculously grew for them in record time, so they would be able to sacrifice the Omer offering of grain in its proper time. And with regard to that generation, the verse says, "They who sow in tears shall reap with songs of joy. Though he goes on his way weeping, who bears the measure of seed, he shall come home with joy, bearing his sheaves." Psalms 126. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the expression, "though he goes on his way weeping, who bears the measure of seed"? Rabbi Yehuda said an ox, when it plowed at that time, it went on its way weeping and lamenting its labor. And yet upon its return, through the same furrow, it was able to eat the young shoots, haziz, of crops that had already sprouted from the furrow. And this is the meaning of the phrase, "he shall come home with songs of joy." The Gemara further asks, what is the meaning of the expression "bearing his sheaves"? Rav Chizda said, and some say this was taught in a Baraisa, that the stalk of that crop was 1 span, the distance between the thumb and the little finger, while the ear itself was 2 spans. The ears were twice as long as the stalk, whereas usually the stalk is 3 or 4 times longer than the ear. Incidental to the interpretation of these verses, the Gemara cites a series of verses, starting with the topic of hunger, that also involve questions that Rav Nachman posed to Rabbi Yitzchak. Rav Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, "What is the meaning of that which is written? For the Lord has called upon a famine, and it shall also come upon the land 7 years." 2 Kings chapter 8, verse 1. Specifically, in those 7 years, what did they eat? Rabbi Yitzchak said to Rabbi Nachman that Rabbi Yochanan said as follows, "In the first year they ate that which was in their houses. In the second year they ate that which was in their fields. In the third year they ate the meat of the remaining kosher animals. In the fourth year they ate the meat of the remaining non-kosher animals. In the fifth year they ate the meat of repugnant creatures and creeping animals, any insects they found. In the sixth year they ate the flesh of their sons and their daughters. And in the seventh year they ate the flesh of their own arms, to fulfill that which is stated, each man shall eat the flesh of his own arm." And Rav Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, "What is the meaning of that which is written? It is sacred in your midst, and I will not enter the city." Hosea, Prophet Hosea, chapter 11, verse 9. This verse is puzzling because it is sacred in your midst. Will God not enter the city? Rabbi Yitzchak said to Rabbi Nachman that Rabbi Yochanan said the verse should be understood as follows. The Holy One, blessed be He, said, "I shall not enter Jerusalem above in heaven until I enter Jerusalem on earth down below at the time of the redemption, when it will be sacred in your midst." The Gemara asks, and is there such a place as Jerusalem above? The Gemara answers, yes, it is written, Jerusalem built up, a city unified together, Tehillim 122. The term unified indicates that there are 2 cities of Jerusalem, a heavenly one and an earthly one, which are bound together. And that is readings from Ein Yaakov. Have a wonderful night. Laila Tov, Shavua Tov.